Everybody, and welcome to our early comics review video. I'm Andy.
I'm Matt.
We're here with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and this is our little bit longer show where we show you some of the best and best books.
Yeah, the
biggest and best books that are releasing this week. Now you can head over to infinityflux.net right now, where you can order these books while supplies last. They're already up for order. So don't miss out. If one of these looks great and you like what we say about it, don't hesitate. Head over there and check it out.
Yeah.
But we've got a really great show. We've got some really interesting books this time, especially our first couple. We're really getting into some cool series here. So let's get it started.
Yeah, we're going to start with Doom #1. This book is very, very interesting. So this is written by Jonathan Hickman and Sanford Green, and then the art is also by Sanford Green. This is $6.99, but it's oversized and there's no ads. Plus, this is a one-shot that has no ties to any continuity. It's not part of any continuity at all. It's its own separate book, almost like a DC Black Label book, if you will. It's its own thing. You can read this free and clear of anything else going on in any other Marvel book right now. And this is about... well, it starts out with Valeria Richards flying this little ship in space, and she finds Doom floating in space almost near death.
He's pretty messed up looking,
he's real messed up for sure. And so she pulls him aboard her ship, and she sort of nurses him back to health. And while she's doing that, she tells him what happened, why he was floating in space. And apparently 2 years prior to that, Galactus went ravenous. He's completely succumbed to his hunger, and he just went on a rampage throughout the galaxy, destroying every planet in his path. He finally arrived at Earth, and all the heroes of Earth do what they do when Galactus shows up. They banded together, and they tried to defeat him.
Heroes and villains.
Villains together.
Things aside,
yeah.
This was such a big threat.
But they failed because Galactus was just so savage, I guess, at this point. And they completely failed. Galactus more or less destroys the planet. And this isn't a spoiler. This is the backstory to this book right here. Mm-hmm. And now, Earth is pretty much destroyed. All the heroes are gone. And now it's up to Valeria and Doom to try to figure out what his plan is, why is he doing this, what's his goal, and how to stop him. Valeria does give Doom a serious power upgrade, both to his body and his armor. I won't tell you what it is. You'll have to see it, but it's really cool. It's pretty darn powerful. And yeah, like I said, together they just have to figure out, what is he doing? What is his goal? And how do we possibly stop him? I'm not going to say anything more because I don't want to spoil anything. But this book was just really cool because it's sort of kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, we talked about it in our Comics from the Future video back when it was on FOC. So it's not a surprise it was coming. And Marvel announced it months ago, so we knew it was coming. But it's kind of its own thing.
Anomaly. It's not connected with anything. You see a ton of characters in this.
Yeah.
You see like a bunch of people facing off against Galactus, and there's a lot of recent characters in there, which I thought was interesting. So it's like, whatever timeline this is or whatever branched off pretty recently. So it's got all these characters in it that are really cool. But it's definitely like most of the issue is preparation.
Right.
To what's going to happen to finally do something about Galactus. And I won't say anything about the ending other than very interesting choice to make the ending. Yeah,
for sure. But yeah, this book, it's just great. Like, the artwork is fantastic. There are some really great single splash pages and then double page spreads as well.
Just great Galactus just wreaking havoc.
Yeah, for sure. And Doom really showing his power now that he's got these power upgrades. So yeah, Dr. Doom versus Galactus with Valeria Richards' help. That's the tagline. That's all you really need to know in order to get this book. But yeah, just a one shot, free of any other continuity. Pick it up, read it. When you're done, you're done. And it's really cool. I would love to have more books like this where we're just going to give you a book and it's just a story and take from it what you will, and that's it. So yeah, anyway, really good. We both highly recommend it. And again, more books like this, please. So this is our A cover. That's by Sanford Green. So that's your interior artist right there. We have this Hildebrandt Marvel Masterpieces variant. We have the one that I pre-ordered, which is the 80 grand off Doom variant. Just Doom looking all classic and sinister. Then we have the George Perez Galactus cover. And then there's the 1 in 25 Wolf variant that we're selling for $29.99.
I also like that none of the covers show what Doom looks like later in the
Right.
book.
Yeah.
So it's like
It's a nice
when you
surprise.
read it, you're going to be surprised. Also, what Doom's first attempt at fighting Galactus what he uses.
Oh, right.
I was like, man, I just want to see that story too.
Yeah, for
'cause
sure.
That's awesome. But yeah, great one to kick it off with this
Yeah.
week. Now I'm going to start off with Ultimate X-Men #3. There's going to come a day where maybe some of the Ultimate books aren't our first books we talk about, but today is not
Today
that
is
day.
not that day.
Because we're still so interested in what this new Ultimate universe is, kind of the story it's carving out for itself, and I feel like none more so than Ultimate X-Men that we're trying to sift through, figure out even what are, Spider-Man, we know he's Spider-Man. In Black Panther, he's Black Panther. In this, we haven't even seen like why are they going to be called the X-Men?
Right.
What is this? So in issue #3, in issue #2 we got introduced to May, or May Storm. Issue #3, I would say, is kind of her secret origins issue.
Yeah.
So in this, Hisako and May finally discuss their powers in the open, which I really like that. It was kind of weird in a previous one where May just kind of seemed to like, hey, you're that kid who was on TV who almost got hit by a car but had this armor.
Yeah,
And
she came out of nowhere.
Kind of just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
This, I felt, had the most kind of like down to earth scene of them sitting and talking about like, Hisako being like, how did you get your, like, I know how I got mine, but how did you get your powers? And May's very aloof about like, it just happened one day or whatever. But then the story goes back and shows us how this happened. And I don't want to give it away. It's pretty, as all mutants' powers manifest, it's usually due to trauma or something like that. And this is no different. We do see the hint that we had talked about, it's in the solicitation, that May kind of idolized a freedom fighter from Wakanda or from Africa named Storm. We get a little hint of that. So we see that she's knows about this character.
It's nice to have that little tiny bit of connective tissue with the other Ultimate books.
But it's odd because we do know that May Storm ends up getting Storm-like powers, but she knows about Storm before she gets her powers. Now, did this somehow influence that? We're not quite sure. But this also does involve that character we saw, the kind of mysterious character that had like a thing on his head with little like cards stuck all around it. That we were kind of theorizing, who could this be? He comes back into it, and we'll say maybe a cat scratch has something to do with it. There's a lot of weird elements going on here, but it's really fun. Also, maybe some other people at the school know about Hisako and May's powers, and the word mutant is thrown around.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean? We're still figuring out for this universe, but this definitely, I felt like, maybe was a little bit more cohesive glue in this story that I felt like, okay, now I'm starting to get a little bit better idea of these characters.
Yeah.
And their personalities and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, this book for sure. So Ultimate X-Men, I haven't loved Ultimate X-Men as much as the other Ultimate books, but this issue in particular made me, after I read the whole thing, it made me sit up and say, wait a minute, what does it even mean to be a mutant on this Earth? Maybe it's different. Maybe it's different than just simply being born with extra abilities. I want to know more. So this definitely sort of made me perk up a little bit and say, okay, now maybe you're onto something, and I want to read more of this for sure. So very good. Plus, we should mention that this is the first appearance of Nico Minoru.
Yes.
On this Earth. She's an existing character on Earth 616. She's been around for 20 years as part of the Runaways. But this is the first time we see her in this book, and I am very interested to see what part she plays going forward.
There's some other characters in the background, too, that I know appear on, I think, the next issue's cover.
Yeah. Oh, are they in the back?
Yeah, they're in the background
of
it. So, not like, cameos of characters that exist in another universe, whatever. But, yeah, I also do like that the cast is building out, too, and maybe we're going to get some more interactions and then talk about what's going on here. So very interesting issue. We've got our A cover right here, where you see what May looked like before and after her kind of powers awakened. She had dark hair, and even that's kind of a interesting turn of when that happens. So we've got some pretty cool variants. We've got our Peach and Mocha cover, and you see some of the other characters around there too. And once again, here's a Betsy Cola cover with which Nico.
Yeah.
What's her first name? Yeah. Which getting some interesting stuff here. This one's really cool to see Tony Daniel. This is a 1 in 25 Tony Daniel variant. Tony Daniel draw this new version of armor. We're selling that for $29.99. And then we have a 1 in 10 Peach Momoko design variant for Nico. So very cool.
Yeah.
Very interested to see, especially the next couple issues. I think are really gonna.
Yeah, this was my favorite issue of the three so far, and like I said, this one really finally hooked me a little bit, saying, "Okay, now you're onto something, and I want to follow this."
I like
story.
the mystery.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. All right, so next I'm going to go with Amazing Spider-Man Blood Hunt #1. This is the only Blood Hunt tie-in that is coming out this week. Last week we had 7. This week we have 1.
Maybe.
Yeah, they could have spread them out a little bit. Yeah. So this is written by Justina Ireland and the art is by Marcelo Ferreira. Now this continues from the last page of Amazing Spider-Man #49 that came out last week. Where it ranks in the importance to the main story, just to help you decide if you're going to get which ones you're going to get. I would say this right now maybe has medium importance because
it could go up or down.
It could go up or down. Because there's a mention in this book of a possible cure for vampirism. And I could see maybe, I'm just guessing, but I could see maybe at the end of the main Blood Hunt story, maybe the heroes defeat the big bad, and then they're like, oh, we've got to deal with all these vampires. What are we going to do? And then Spider-Man swings in. It's like, I've got a cure. And, if you want to know, well, where did Spider-Man get that cure? Then it may be this book, or it may not play out that way at all. I'm just guessing right now. So that's what I'm saying, importance for Blood Hunt. But what happens is that Misty Knight approaches Spider-Man. Misty Knight is with the Lizard, and they approach Spider-Man. Says, hey, Colleen Wing and I got a tip about a cure that Morbius and the Lizard are working on. When Colleen and I went to talk to them about the cure, there was already an army of vampires waiting for us. We fought. They Lizard and Misty Knight got away, but the vampires took Colleen Wing and Morbius. And the only thing I was thinking about is maybe that should have been a one-shot. Yeah. Maybe it would have been nice for us to see that, because Misty Knight just, like all of that stuff that I just said, we don't see any of it. Misty Knight just tells Spider-Man, here's this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and now we're coming to you. And I feel like it kind of would have been cool to see that, maybe. Yeah. Maybe it helped us understand a little bit more.
Especially since we got Amazing Spider-Man 49, which
like it could have been that could have been
that could have had some of that in it too.
So but anyway, after so now that they're with Spider-Man for help, they need Spider-Man's help tracking down Colleen Wing and Morbius, and also finding this cure and does it work and that kind of thing. So pretty interesting issue. The writing was a little bit weird. It felt like maybe there was a couple panels missing. There was a panel where there's a priest standing outside of a church, and Spider-Man swings up and says, "Hey, Padre," and the priest says, "Whoa, why didn't you use the front door?" But they're outside, so there's a couple weird little things like that. But I like the artwork.
Art was really good in this.
Yeah, it's cool to see, because I think we're going to get Miles as our Spider-Man in the main story, so it's cool to see what Peter's doing during this. I like Misty Knight. I like the way they drew Spider-Man is about like this tall, and Lizard is this big hulking thing. So not bad. But yeah, medium importance right now, and definitely if that cure that they mentioned does come into play later in the main story, then maybe check this series out, or at least know that this is where it happened. At least know that it does get explained somewhere. But yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. This is going to be a 3-issue miniseries, so we'll know.
Also, want to mention that after the credits, we do find out what's going on with Colleen Wing and Morbius as they are trying to escape the predicament that they're in.
Right. So you almost have two different little. They'll eventually meet back up, and then maybe that will feed the story, or maybe it won't result in much of anything. We'll just have to wait and see. But two more issues of this, and we'll know for sure. So there is our A cover right there, and then we got a couple variants. This one, Jose Maria with Spider-Man and Morbius, and then as all the other books do, we have the blood red sketch variant.
Or it could just be the Spider-Man red sketch variant.
That's true. Yep.
That works as that too. Okay, next up, I've got one that I really enjoyed. This is Redcoat #2, of course, by Jeff Johns and Brian Hitch. Our second installment in Redcoat in this unnamed universe that shares space with Geiger and Junkyard Joe and all that kind of stuff. But I really like this one because I like the history aspect of it. It deals a lot with like American history. So in the first issue, we were kind of got our full introduction to Simon Pure, who was a redcoat during the Revolutionary War in 1776. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time as they were doing a kind of a cultish ritual to make, I guess, Benjamin Franklin immortal, but Simon got in the way and he became immortal. So that's where we pick up from here, where he is being kind of hunted 116 years later by the same cult that tried to, that he kind of messed up in the past. We saw in the previous issue that a young boy kind of steps in to help. That we learn is a young Einstein.
I think he's like 13.
Yeah, who is really fun and is written phonetically.
Yeah.
But is not too hard to understand.
Right.
It just kind of adds a little flourish to the
There's
dialogue.
a little bit of, you'll hear a German accent in your head when you read it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But this one is really interesting. So they are fighting these cultists and everything. But one of them has, when, you know, Simon's immortal, so he's been hit a lot of times. He even mentions, like, I can take the hit, but my jacket can't.
Right.
I've gotten really good at sewing over the years. But he does get hit by a hatchet that he thinks is fine until it starts doing something weird to...
He doesn't heal from it.
He doesn't heal from it, and he even does a little extra flare. So this is really interesting. He wants to investigate what this is. Meanwhile, Einstein tells him about his sister, who's been having dreams.
That was the coolest part, I thought.
That involves, he said, a man in a red coat, the country on fire from coast to coast. He also drops little mentions of maybe some other unnamed universe characters, but, you know, wants to team up with Redcoat because this all is connected somehow. But before any of this can happen, he wants to figure out what's going on with, you know, why was I actually hurt by this cut. So he goes to see the only other immortal that he is aware of. I don't want to say who it is, but this leads to a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You know, because we're dealing with history, we're dealing with characters. So you're going to start seeing some other recognizable characters from history pop up. I thought this was really fun. It's very, I wouldn't say lighthearted, but it has a great kind of bouncy, high spirits, quick kind of humor, all that kind of stuff. Dire situations, but a very kind of riveting read.
Yeah.
That I think a lot of people will enjoy. It's not dour, you know. He talks about, like, in one part, he's been around for so long, but he's never been good at, like, guns or anything.
Yeah.
So he's really funny because he's been around so long, but he's not, like, really great at anything. But I highly recommend this. I think all of these Unnamed Universe and Ghost Machine books are just going to be kind of the next big thing people are talking about.
Yeah,
because they're so well done.
Yeah, this issue specifically is where the story really gets going, because the first issue, like I said, we had kind of sort of seen most of it before, how Simon, or more or less how, you know, establishing that Simon is an immortal and this kind of stuff. But here is where we get into what I feel like is new material.
Yeah.
And oh, this is what the story is going to be for Simon. I'm on board. So that's where I like this a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of, you can tell all this is so well orchestrated. Even maybe at some point tying in with the other Unnamed Universe books. But for right now, we're focusing on Simon, and I'm loving it. So we've got our A cover here by your interior artist, Brian Hitch. And then we have a really fun Ivan Rice variant as well. Nothing like the team of Jeff Johns and Ivan Rice.
All day.
All day.
I'll buy all their books for sure. All right, so next up for me is Venom Separation Anxiety #1. This is a new, I want to say, 4 or 5 issue miniseries. That is another one of Marvel's retro series. That this fits back. This fits in with the books that came out back in the '90s when Eddie Brock was still Venom, wanting to eat Spider-Man's brains, that kind of thing. Written by David Michelinie and the artist by Gerardo Sandoval. And in this one, Venom, like I said, Venom still wants revenge on Spider-Man, so he actually travels to Denver because he thinks that Peter Parker is going to be there covering the story for the Bugle. Because the Vault is out in Denver holding a press conference where they are talking about their new rehabilitation program, and they're using the Purple Man as an example of what they're doing with these prisoners, what this new method is that they're doing with these prisoners. Well, Peter's not there, but Eddie Brock, he is at this press conference. But it's a good thing that he is, because while he's there, there's a group of mercenaries and another classic Spider-Man villain break into the conference in order to free the Purple Man, and of course Venom is there to stop them. And I don't want to say anything more, but the Purple Man maybe gets out, and the Purple Man can tell people what to do. He can like hypnotize people almost, or control their minds.
One of the most dangerous Marvel villains.
Yeah, for sure. And it was just really cool to see what happens there at the end, and what does that mean? Like what's going to happen next, that kind of thing. I just really like this. I like these retro series. Venom is quite a bit complicated nowadays with all the King in Black stuff, and you got his son, and there's a bazillion different symbiotes. This, sort of goes back to the day of it's just Venom, and maybe Carnage was around the time that this takes place, but
mostly
other than
still
that,
a Spider-Man villain.
Yeah, it's mostly still a Spider-Man villain. The artwork is great. Venom is drawn big and bulky, the way McFarlane used to do it. So everything about this is awesome. And it was really cool to see him fight this other Spider-Man villain. I don't want to tell you who it is, but that was a really cool fight. Just action-packed. I loved it. I would love to have more of this Venom. So if you're a Venom fan, if you're an old-school Venom fan, I think you will definitely like this. So that's our A cover right there. Nice Web of Spider-Man #1 homage. And this book has some awesome variants.
Yeah, this might have variants of the week.
Yeah, so John Boy Myers right there.
Look at that tongue.
Yeah, that's awesome. Then we have Gerardo Sandoval, who's your interior artist. So that's kind of what Venom looks like in this book, which is great.
Now,
this one. Yeah, this one for sure. This is Venom. He can go camouflage, so he's on the cover. You just can't see him.
Super close up of his spider symbol.
And then this really awesome Ron Lim foil variant, and his eyes are, I think the whole thing foil?
His skin is not, but his eyes in the background and his mouth are.
His eyes and his teeth and then the background are all foil, offset by, just his regular. Oh, and the spider at the bottom, the top of the spider. Really nice. So yeah, great variants for a really fun book.
Awesome. And next up, not a ton of DC this week.
Yeah.
But some pretty important ones like Action Comics 1065. And this is House of Brainiac Part 3. We've had 1, 2, 2.5, and now 3.
We're at the midway point.
Yeah. So I really like this issue. It's kind of split into 2 parts. So we've got Superman and Lobo, who are kind of on the trail trying to find Brainiac and figure out why did he just attack Metropolis? What's his plan? Which is a lot of fun. You get that Superman Lobo banter. You get them facing off against some of the Zarnians that they've previously encountered that are really fun. The other story, you have Connor Kent, Superboy, and Kara, Supergirl, who have been shrunk down and put in jars on Brainiac's ship. Now, they're kind of like working together to figure out, okay, how are we going to get out of here? And so they're going to get out, but they're still shrunk.
Yeah.
So you've got a fun kind of short adventure with a shrunken down Superboy and Supergirl going around Brainiac's ship.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kryptonians.
Yeah. So. Brainiac has some guard dogs.
Yeah.
It's like even scarier because they're giant. But we do find out a little bit more of what Brainiac's plan is.
Or what one of his plans
Well,
are, I
one of his
guess.
plans are, yeah.
He's got a few irons in the fire,
We
but
do know stuff about um the the queen that he's attempting to build. That's no surprise. We know
yeah.
that's going to be a big part of absolute power. But let's just say a queen needs a kingdom to rule over, and Brainiac's got a plan for that as well.
Very well done.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
But also the stuff with Superman and Lobo. How long is this friendship? I guess
hmm
not friendship. This partnership
Yeah.
gonna last? And when will Lobo show his true colors?
Yeah.
We're gonna find out probably pretty soon in this. I guess our next entry will be Superman.
Yeah, which is next week or the week after. I don't remember.
I think
It's
it's
soon.
next week. But it's very soon.
Yeah.
But I'm loving the House of Brainiac stuff.
Yeah.
It just feels really classic Superman.
And one of my favorite parts of this story so far is what is Lex Luthor up to?
Yeah.
He because he knows more about all this Brainiac stuff than he is letting on. It seems like he's working for Brainiac, but Luthor doesn't work for anybody.
Yeah.
So is he secretly working for Brainiac while trying to figure out? Like, I don't know. But I want to know, like, he's a presence in this, and I just,
Yeah.
what is he up to?
He's a wild card.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, there is a backup story that is by a different artist, but I believe still written by Joshua Williamson, and it is about Vril Dox, who is Brainiac 3, who is kind of considered the son of Brainiac. All you have to know is he's another Brainiac, but he's not one of the Brainiacs.
Yeah.
And you see what he thinks about all of this Brainiac stuff going on and his interaction with his quote-unquote father. So that's a really interesting backup story that I'm wondering what that will play into the future. But great issue of Action Comics, as it has been for a long time.
Oh yeah,
Just
Superman's
so
been great for going on. What are we at? Like a year and a half now.
Yeah.
Superman being awesome.
It's still one of the first books when it comes out I want to
Yeah.
read because it's so much fun. We've got some great variants. So we have this Talavera variant with Supergirl. And we also have this 1 in 25 Spears variant that we're selling for $24.99. And I guess that's your Queen Brainiac on there doing a Predator, holding
Yeah.
up the holding up the skull and the spine of someone. So pretty cool in there.
All right, so next is Uncanny Valley #2. The first issue was really fun, and this one I think is even better. This one, so Oliver, who is the main kid in this book, he learns more about his cartoon grandfather. I don't remember the grandfather's name, but he literally looks like Yosemite Sam, and I even mean like drawn in the cartoony style. Like the artwork in this is great because in one panel you have your kind of sort of photorealistic Oliver, and then you have somebody who looks like they came straight out of Looney Tunes.
One more highly rendered, the other very flat colors.
Think the comic version of Who Framed Roger Rabbit with humans and cartoons. It's kind of like that. But so Oliver, we found out last issue that he is a descendant of these cartoon people. I don't really know what to call them. And so anyway, so Oliver and his grandfather are on the road. They're traveling somewhere where his grandfather says that Oliver will be safe. And it's nice because Oliver's grandfather tells him a little bit more about the rules, I guess you will, which is nice for us as readers too, because we understand a little bit more about how this is all even possible. His grandfather says that, if we're out in the real world, adults see us as regular people, but who look just slightly off. They say, like, if you see a guy who looks like he's got big ears or maybe a big nose or something like that, then that's probably one of us. And kids can see us the way we are, but adults, their brains compensate for the difference. And so they see us as just regular people who are just a little bit different. They eventually, though, run into a Wile E. Coyote type character, which sounds funny, but this character means to do Oliver harm. Like, he really wants to, for real, hurt Oliver. And it's funny because there's a lot of cartoony imagery used in the way they're trying to get away from this character. Something like, Oliver can actually walk on air as long as he doesn't look down, but it doesn't last for very long, and he falls, and his head stays, but his body falls, and his neck stretches out for a minute. Very, very cartoony. They're trying to get away from him, so they do the thing where they paint the tunnel on the side of the mountain. They can go through, but the coyote can't. So it's a serious story, but with this funny Looney Tunes aesthetic to it, and it's like just this combination of two different styles of story that I never thought I would see together.
And some of it you're slightly horrified, but also funny.
Yeah.
Like
it's like I feel like I'm not supposed to be laughing at this, but I am.
Like you'll see like a horrible car wreck, but then but there's cartoony elements too, that are like, oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
But you kind of realize how dangerous cartoons would be if they were real.
Yeah, for somebody who, Oliver is descendant of this cartoon character, so he has these, I don't want to call them powers, but cartoony abilities. But anybody who didn't, they would be seriously hurt by the stuff that's going on. And then, of course, there's, with the way it ends, there is something much larger at play here. So just really well done. A very unique, original take on all this stuff. Telling a serious story, but with Looney Tunes aesthetics to it, and also a mixture of sort of real world stuff as well. Just super great. So I highly recommend if you're looking for something different, check out Uncanny Valley. And this is our only cover. I think maybe there was a variant, but this is the only one we have left available.
Okay, next up for me is a new entry into the Spawn universe. I believe this is going to be a 3-issue miniseries, if I'm not mistaken. So this is Monolith, or some places put it as Spawn Monolith. And this is by Sean Lewis and Valerio Giordano. This is really interesting. So Monolith has been a character that's been around for a little while in the Spawn books. That's him right here on the front. I guess I never considered what is he. I guess I would just assume that he was a demon or a guy who had his version of a Spawn suit or whatever. But it seems like he may even have alien origins.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be honest, I didn't 100% understand what this issue was about, but I still had a lot of fun with it. So I know in the solicitation it talked about this is kind of his origin from, space all the way up to when he meets Al Simmons. But in this, it actually begins in the year 3030 on a prison ship where it sounds like he's already encountered Al Simmons. This is post something horrible has happened to Earth involving the spawns. So he's in a prison ship. Of course, you can imagine like a character like this just wreaking havoc.
Yeah.
They're in the food area, and he's just tossing people about.
Bull in a china shop, basically. Yeah.
But we also see, which seems somewhere near, maybe on another ship or something, is Omega Spawn, who was a big character like leading up to 300 and all of that. And Omega Spawn is really upset with Monolith because Monolith was like a bad guy, but seems like he ended up turning on Omega Spawn and worked with Al Simmons Spawn and all of them. And it seems like he basically just wants revenge. He just kind of wants to teach him a lesson for flipping sides. So I'm not sure like when this takes place. Like I know it's 3030, but I don't know like what have these characters been doing? Why now is this happening? All of that. And there's some other elements, some other things that are on this prison ship that maybe are related to what's been going on. But what I do know is you get a lot of really fun action scenes with Monolith fighting, with Omega Spawn, his big sword fighting Monolith, all of that. So I think maybe if I reread it like one more time, I could maybe start piecing it together, or maybe we need the other 2 issues to really figure out, where does this fit in time.
Yeah, I'm sure once the whole thing is together, it'll make much more sense.
Yeah, because I want to say it begins by being like, it's 3030, but how did we get here? And then it jumps forward and it's like on a prison colony. It's like, but you were just on one. Like, how far back did we just go? I'm not sure, but I'm looking forward to reading the next one because this one's really cool. The art was really cool. So if you're a Spawn fan, then you'll want to check this one out. I also really like Omega Spawn and his design. So that was really cool. So there's our A cover. We also have, of course, a Todd McFarlane cover. And then I did want to mention that I did not get a chance to read it all the way through, but be remiss if I did not mention Rat City #2 also comes out this week. And here is the variant for this. This is the Keen variant. And my little bit of reading, I'll say you do see him in the costume, but you gotta wait a while. So
Okay.
this is Rat City is a slow burn to build up this new futuristic spawn.
Well, next is one I really enjoyed the first issue of, and also this one. This is the Principles of Necromancy #2. This is from Magma Comics. I actually got two Magma Comics sitting here right next to each other. But just like the first issue, this is kind of a one and done story of just creepy Dr. Eyes, trying to figure out the solution to death, basically. This issue, though, is about a young girl named Eloise. She has a mother who is extremely sick. She has written to doctors numerous times, but none of them have responded to come out and try to help her mother. That is until Dr. Jacob Eyes knocks on her door and says that he can help. And he's actually able to cure her mother very quickly, like within the span of an hour, and like back to full health. And because of that, Eloise becomes enamored with Dr. Eyes, and she wants to learn everything she can from him. And he reluctantly agrees to teach her. Now, I don't want to say anything more without spoiling the ending. But the first book there was some creepy imagery. This book, there's also some creepy imagery. He teaches her some things that maybe kids shouldn't be taught. Because again, she's a young girl. We do learn something else about Doctor Eyes, and I do kind of wonder if it'll come up later. It's a very sort of haunting two-page spread about something that he has done. But I don't know. I mean, surely that's going to come up again at some point. Or else they wouldn't have shown us. But just interesting, kind of sort of an anthology book of this creepy Dr. Oz traveling from town to town, doing weird things in an effort to learn the secrets of immortality, I guess you could say. But super great. I'm really excited to see where it goes. And this is our only cover.
Okay, next up, I've got one that I was very excited about. It's Masters of the Universe Revolution #1. So this is a prequel comic to the Netflix series, the Kevin Smith Netflix series. And this is awesome because it's the prequel, it's the story of Hordak and Skeletor and what their relationship is before all of this began. So they end up at odds. One's kind of technology, one's magic. But we find out a little bit more in here. So this is by Tim Sheridan, Rob David, and Ted Baselli, with art by Daniel HDR. And in this, we see the Horde is still, it says the not too long ago. So this is, we do know from some stuff they say in it before Prince Adam is born.
Mm.
But Keldor is around, Hordak's around, and the Horde is around. Hordak being like a general in the Horde army. He's second only to Horde Prime. And in this, we see a big battle going on what is it? Anwat Gar, which is where Skeletor is from, where everybody has blue skin.
Yeah.
It's a really cool battle going on because we see a bunch of characters who have not appeared in the show yet, but you kind of see what their version in this universe is. So we see people like Modulok, which I love.
Oh,
the
yeah.
toy where you mix and match all
Yeah,
those parts.
he's great.
You see Dragstore, which is the guy who has a big wheel on his chest and a helmet, and you lay him on his back and pull a ripcord, and he like rides, but he's like stuck on his chest, and they just mess with him by kicking him, and he like launches off into a tank. We see Grizzlor, Leech, just some of the classic Horde characters. But as they're all fighting, Grizzlor and some of them are like, where's Hordak? He's supposed to be leading all this. And we cut, and Hordak is actually in the Fright Zone, which, if you remember the old playsets, the Fright Zone was a playset that had the puppet of a big snake that popped out of the cave. It looks just like that. But Hordak is seeking something in the Fright Zone. He has been, kind of like Skeletor does, trying to amass power somehow. And he's like, I've tried everything, but it's kind of seemed to be at a pinnacle. And he goes to see the Shadow Weavers, which another She-Ra reference there, because they're kind of like the Fates. They can tell the future, but if they tell you your future, it's locked in. And Hordak's like, I don't care. I want to know what do I need to do to get more powerful. And they reveal to him that maybe uh, he's destined to lose to a prince that has yet to be born. And he's like, well, I got to change this. They're like, too bad, we told you the future. And he's like, well, is there anything I can do? And they're like, well, there is the power of Havoc, which, if you know Skeletor, he's got the Havoc staff.
Mm.
And they're like, if you're going that direction, you need to, your destiny is tied with another um, who is actually going to wield the power of the Havoc. And he learns, I need to find this guy, Keldor, and team up if I'm ever going to hope to save myself. A great setup issue for kind of this team that's going to build of Skeletor and Hordak, or this time Keldor, where he's not the skeleton yet. I loved it as a big Masters of the Universe fan. If you're a Masters of the Universe fan, you'll definitely want to check this one out. There's so many little Easter eggs, all that kind of stuff. So highly recommend it. Yeah, and just a fun action comic. So this is the only cover I have for it right now. I believe we've already done the polls. So this is the last one we have.
All right, so I'm going to talk about our other Magma Comics book. This is the Scale Trade. This is the first of this new series, written by Steve Orlando and the artist by Megan Huang. In this one, it's set in a normal modern day world. Only in this world, dragons exist, and much like rhinos and elephants, you know, in the safari, poaching dragons and selling their parts is illegal. So it made me think of like how people, you know, kill rhinos and sell their, or they'll kill elephants and sell their tusks. It made me think of that kind of thing. Super illegal to do anything like that with dragons. But it does happen a lot in this story. And because they say every part of a dragon is valuable, their scales, their meat, all of that stuff. And the black market scale trade, which is where the title comes from, it's pretty busy. Like there's all kinds of stuff going on with that all the time. So this book is about two agents who work for the Dragon Conservation Agency. One person refers to them as Dragon Cops, and it's kind of sort of true. But you know, members of other law enforcement agencies don't really take them seriously. Well, they get word of an illegal dragon chop shop, for lack of a better term, and they take it upon themselves to shut it down, but by any means necessary, which I found kind of surprising because they're supposed to be law enforcement officers, but they really want this place shut down. And they're going to do whatever it takes to make that happen. So, you know, if you're a big dragon fan, you're a fan of dragons, I guess. This is, you know, dragons, especially in modern day, we don't see that too much. So that is what this is all about. And yeah, so I recommend that if you like that kind of stuff. And this is our only cover.
Well, next up for me, I've got our Star Wars book of the week. This is Star Wars Mace Windu number 4. This is the final issue of this miniseries, which it's the final issue, but it does leave a lot of doors open for more. Maybe with Mace Windu, maybe with other characters, as Mace faces off against the leader of this cult that's been trying to steal this coaxium ultra, this very volatile fuel type stuff. And he faced off against the leader of this cult called the Shroud, you see on the cover. Who is he? Why does he know so much about the Force? And what does he know about the Force that may make Mace Windu question some of the things he knows about the Force? It's very interesting and definitely, like I said, leaves the door open for more stories involving this cult and the Shroud and all of this. So really fun ending to this mini series for Star Wars Mace Windu. And we've got a variant for it. This is the Phil Noto Master and Apprentice variant with Snoke and Kylo Ren.
Well, I'm going to talk about another new series from Dark Horse. This is called Heartpiercer. This is going to be a 4-issue miniseries. It's written by Rich Doak and the artist by Gavin Smith. And this is a dark fantasy series. So, you know, we don't have a whole lot of fantasy books out there right now, but this is a dark fantasy series. It's about a woman named Atala. She is trying to win the heart of her lord. And when I say lord, I don't mean like a god, I mean like lord of a kingdom, that kind of lord. She's trying to win his heart. So to do that, she kills a unicorn, which is the last of the great beasts. and delivers its horn to her lord, but he betrays her. And that's not a spoiler to say that. It's like the third page of the book. That's what the whole story is about. Is he betrays her and leaves her for dead. And when she wakes up, she sees that the world has basically been overrun by monsters who are under the control of her former lord. And she's got to try to figure out, she's going to go get her revenge basically. But before she can do that, she runs across a man and his nephew who are being uh, hounded, no pun intended, by a horde of wolves. So she sort of tries to help them out. And then I'm assuming from there, her journey will begin on a path to revenge, I guess. And it looks like the man and the nephew that she saves, I think they're going to figure into the story as well. So just just wanted to let you know about a new fantasy book because, like I said, we don't have a whole lot of those out there right now. So if you are a fan of fantasy, then maybe check this out. And this is our only cover.
Well, lastly, for me, I've got Gun Honey Collision Course #1. This is the next installment in the Gun Honey series, which I really enjoy. It's part of your hard case crime stories. So, this is all kind of real world espionage, all that kind of stuff.
No dragons in this one.
No dragons. This is by Charles Arday, and the art is by Angkor King. And it actually, if you go to the end of the book, it gives you a full synopsis of everything that's happened with these characters up until now. So really good refresher at the end. But you've got your characters Joanna, who is the gun honey character, and Brooke, who is a kind of fellow agent that they've kind of teamed up with over the series. And they're in hiding in Borneo after Joanna was framed for murder in one of the previous series. Now, I do think if you want to read this, you should read all of them. But I do think that backup in this does kind of catch you up because these are all kind of individual missions,
right?
Per se. But in this, Joanna, since they've been hiding out here, and they've been hiding out for like a year, she informs Brooke about someone named Hiroshi Yamato, and this is really interesting. He is like a guy who she calls it insurance, but basically, if you're targeted by people, you go to him and you give him some information on whoever's targeting you or whatever. And if you don't report back to him in a year, he releases this information to everyone, the world.
Okay.
And so it's kind of like a little revenge type thing. And of course, they've been out of it for a while, and she's like, "Oh yeah, he's got information, but you're not dead yet. So if this gets out, everyone is gonna feel it." So they're going on a mission to actually tell this guy, "Hey, we're still alive," and kind of stop this guy from getting attacked by the enemy and stop them. So it's a really cool kind of like it's a mission, but not put on by any agency. It's kind of Joanna being like, "This is the right thing to do, is to go save this guy who I've done favors for in the past." And yeah, it's really fun. Now with these, it's a very mature book. There's a lot of everything in it, but if you're of a legal age to read it, you'll find a lot of fun in it because it does feel like some of those old crime noir books. So I really enjoyed it. That's Gun Honey Collision Course #1 of this new miniseries. We've got some covers. They're a little on the spicy side, but not too bad. We've got a Adam Hughes cover. Very cool to have Adam Hughes on there. We have a Meyer cover. And we have a 1 in 20 Adam Hughes variant for $19.99, the version of the A cover, or the B cover.
Well, I'm going to talk about Green Lantern #11 because this is one of my favorite series on the stands right now. In this one, Hal and Joe Mullen and all of the other sort of rebel lanterns, they decide to go to the Council of the United Planets to tell them of Tharos's plot to destroy all of the lantern power batteries. But it doesn't necessarily go how they might think. Easier said than done, that kind of thing. But this issue goes back and forth between that story and also flashbacks of when Hal and Carol Ferris were growing up together, which Carol is thinking back on as she travels to Vegas to get married to her fiance. So there's there's a little interesting thing that happens at the end that makes me think we will see a lot more of Carol Ferris coming up very soon. And in the backup story is a House of Brainiac tie-in. Continuing the story of Guy Gardner, who has gone to find Lobo and thinks that he found him. Although the guy who he's traveling around with says that he's not Lobo. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. And it would kind of make sense because Lobo is with Superman out in space. We saw that in Action Comics. So I don't really know what Guy Gardner's doing or who he's with right now. But just you're trying to get all of the House of Brainiac stuff. There is a tie-in in here in the backup. Another great issue, Green Lantern. I love this series. So that's our A cover right there. And we have this Dave Johnson variant. And then we have this 1 in 25 Churchill variant that we're selling for $12.99.
Nice.
That's a very nice classic Green Lantern.
I'm done.
You're done? Okay,
Sorry,
I just got a couple more. Just wanted to tell you guys about G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, number 306. Just letting you know that the new issue's out, because I think it's maybe been a little bit over a month since the last one came out. But this one still is giving us little chunks of different stories going on that I'm assuming, that I'm sure they're all going to, converge at some point. But in this one, we see Serpentor, and Serpentor, who is working with the Revanche, and Destro. They are all still playing their cat and mouse games of who knows what and who knows what, that kind of thing. We see a little bit of a training montage with Snake Eyes, which is really cool.
That part's great.
Especially Paul Pelletier is a guest artist on this, and I love his work so much. And especially the bit with Snake Eyes looks cool, but the whole book looks great. Something tragic happens in Springfield where Cobra Commander and his bunch are holed up. And then some of the Drows infiltrate Cobra Island as well. So we've got that whole little story as well. So just a whole bunch of different storylines going on right now.
3 pages.
Yeah. And I mean, we'll have to, see at what point they all converge. I'm assuming it's going to happen though. But just wanted to show you, let you know that the new issue's out and show you that really cool A cover and also this 1 in 10 Walker variant that we're selling for $8.99. And then the last one I wanted to talk about just super quick. I wanted to tell you guys real quick about Batman and Robin number 9. I don't think we talked about number 8 on this show when it came out last month, but I wanted to let you know real quick about this because the identity and the origin of Shush is revealed in this. We finally learned who Shush is and why she is the way she is. And so, if you've been reading this and you're super curious about who Shush is and all that stuff, it all gets revealed in this issue, and it's really cool. The artwork's great. This is probably my favorite Batman book on the stands. I love the father-son aspect of it and the artwork. So that's our A cover right there, and we have a couple of cool variants here. This is our Gleb Melnikov variant with Flatline. And then we have a Howard Porter variant with Batman and Robin. And there's a 1 in 25 DeMeo variant featuring Flatline that we're selling for $45.99. And that's it for me.
Very cool.
Yep.
A very good week of books. So hopefully you found something that you are interested in.
Tickled your fancy?
Yeah, hopefully we taught you a little bit about what's coming out this week so you're better prepared when you head into your comic book store and pick it up. Or if you head over to infinityflux.net, you'll have a better idea on your shopping experience there, which books you want to pick up and which ones are for you, because that's what we're all about, is connecting the right book with the right person. There's something out there for everybody, so hopefully you can find yours. We've got our videos coming up on Wednesday, where we are going over the books that you could pre-order by the weekend that you don't want to miss. And like always, make sure to subscribe. Even though we're over 3,000, which was our goal, we're still, we don't want to stop there. We want to keep going. Spread our love of comics to anybody.
4,000 and beyond. That's the saying, right? That's what he says?
That's what Buzz Lightyear says. Never knew in the movie what he meant by 4,000, but now we know. All that good stuff. Leave us an emoji of...
What's Doom look like? Is it like a robot face or a mask or a robot face or something?
Yeah, that's Figure out what does Doom look
Yeah,
like to you.
find the best Doom emoji you can and drop it for us to let you know that you made it all the way to the end with us.
Absolutely. So until next time, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you.
See ya.